Congratulations. It's Friday, the 27th of December, 2024. It's the last Friday of the year. You made it. Good morning and welcome to the perfect morning starter right here on Channels Television. I am Bukola Koka.
Oh, yes. December the 27th, 2024. I mean, lots to be excited for. What a year it has been. So let's help you wind down the year on a perfect note. Good morning. I'm Coyote Okikiolu. Hey, Bukola. It has been a roller coaster.
Roller coaster,
I must say, what a roller coaster. It looks like each year says, I'm going to outdo the previous year. So I imagine 2025 is just on the sideline saying, okay, 2024 was a roller coaster, but wait for me. And I think from the conversation we had yesterday, your outlook is also very important. Life is, yes, a lot of things happen to you in life, but you have to also happen to things. And your perspective is very important. Your outlook is really important. So I'd like you to take all of those experiences in 2024, the good, the bad, the ugly, the underwhelming, overwhelming, give it whatever term you want to give it. I'd like us to take all of those experiences and say, well, in 2025, I'm going to make sure that I make the most of it. But guess what? 2024 is not even over just yet. So there's still some opportunities in this 2024. I think that's just my to cover this morning.
Yeah, Kaide, you're right on the money. It's been indeed a roller coaster, a lot to reflect on. Record inflation in 2024, the most times that the pump price of petrol have gone up, I believe, in any other administration in this country. They went up, this year in 2024. But regardless, some Nigerians have also been doing amazing things on their own, and we've brought you a number of them on the program today. But while we reflect, it's also important to recall certain things, particularly as they happen amid this time. It's like deja vu, really. December 2023, 85 worshippers were killed during a religious festival by an accidental airstrike by the military. And we've had another occurrence, 10 worshippers in Salama local government, 10 community members rather in Salama local government area of Sokoto state were killed, although the military has released a statement, by the spokesperson of Operation Fasanyama, saying that indeed that area, is an area known for bandits, and of course careful consideration is taken when they embark on such missions, and indeed that this one is justified. But it's important, as the Sokoto state government has said, that an investigation be conducted to determine what exactly happened, and indeed if these people that have been killed in this unfortunate incident were bandits or were innocent people. This must certainly come to an end. We must ride against the ill wind that blows seemingly every December. But we have a lot still to be thankful for, as we trudge on in this nation called Nigeria. It's our own. We're not going anywhere. We must build this country and achieve the Nigeria of our dreams. What do we have, Kadi, this morning?
And that's where we started off on the show this morning. Following the recent airstrikes in Sokoto targeting terrorists, we'll be speaking with experts to explore how intelligence gathering plays a critical role in planning and executing counter-terrorism operations. I will bring all the different sides to this to ensure, on the one hand, these incidents reduce and the fight against insecurity, terrorism, banditry, call it whatever, wax stronger. We do not want to drop the ball as a result of incidents like this one.
Besides that, in the aftermath of the protest that rocked the University of Abuja over the appointment process of its vice-chancellor, we will delve right into the issues and find out possible solutions that lie ahead.
And there's an increasing demand for personnel in project management category. Oh yes, so what does it take to be a product manager? Don't forget, everybody's managing one product or the other. You're either managing your life, you're managing your business. So we'll look at how we can imbibe all the lessons, expertise from project management to real life. And we'll be finding out from an expert on the show.
And indeed, we also have a one-on-one with a phenomenal production designer by the name Tunji Afolayan. We'll have that up close with him.
Yeah, so get ready for the behind the scenes this morning. You can be a part of the show. Hashtag CTV Morning Brief, or just head over to WhatsApp right now. What was 2024 like for you? and what is your outlook for 2025? You see the WhatsApp number on your screen during the show, so send us a message. If you've got a video message as well, send them in. Would like to share your 2024 experience with the world and your outlook for 2025 as well. And, I've been asking if you were to put 2024 in a word or use one word to describe 2024, Bukola, what would it be?
Undulating but productive. So many words, right?
3 words. It's not easy. Well, I would say, again, roller coaster. And roller coaster comes with a thrill, right? There's the excitement and there's the fear, like, oh my
and there's
goodness.
The uncertainty about it, right?
Right? So for me, it'll be roller coaster. What will it be for you? Let us know. That is the WhatsApp number right there, which you can be a part of the show. We're back with the top stories making the rounds. Yes, it may be the holiday season, the Yuletide, but the news is still buzzing. Stay with us. It's still the morning break.
Well, we have quite a number of stories making the rounds this morning, starting, of course, with security. And we can tell you that the Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, has insisted that there was no mistake in the military airstrikes targeted at the members of the Lakrawa terrorist group in Sokoto. The Sokoto state government had claimed that 10 people who lost their lives in the strikes were innocent villagers. But while visiting the northwestern state a day after the incident, the CDS maintained that those killed were criminals.
Well, it's definitely a topic we're diving right in on the show in a matter of minutes. But let's tell you that the police have intensified the search for Justice Azuka, lawmaker representing Onitsha North constituency in the Anambra State House of Assembly, who was abducted by gunmen December the 24th in Onitsha local government area of the state. That's Onitsha North. In an update on the incident, the command spokesperson, that's Tochukwu Ikenga, said that the lawmaker's vehicle has been recovered during an ongoing rescue operation. This is a development story, and we'll be bringing you more updates as soon as they come in.
That's really mean. We hope that these kidnappings stop forthwith. Moving from the southeast to the southwest, the Ogun State House of Assembly has passed the state's 2025 appropriation bill with a total expenditure of just over 1 trillion naira. The budget was passed with adjustments in the recurrent expenditures of 21 agencies and the capital expenditures of 5 agencies.
And let's tell you, sports. Fulham scored twice in the final 10 minutes to end Chelsea's 12-game unbeaten run in all competitions with a stunning 2-1 Premier League win at Stamford Bridge. Substitutes Harry Wilson and Rodrigo Muniz shocked the Blues to secure Fulham's first away win at their West London rivals since, get this, 1979. That's huge.
Oh, yeah. Let's go off now to the foreign scene. This is huge on international politics. President of Panama, Jose Paul Molino, has ruled out negotiations with Donald Trump over the control of the Panama Canal, which the U.S. president-elect threatened to demand be returned to Washington. President Molino also rejected the possibility of reducing canal tolls for U.S. vessels and denied that China had any influence over the vital waterway connecting the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans.
Let's bring you to the big screens now. Universal Pictures has announced that Oscar-winning director Christopher Nolan will be directing a cinematic adaptation of The Odyssey. You may recall an ancient poem believed to be written by Homer between 750 and 650 BC. Well, the adaptation is described by Universal as a mythic action epic shot across the world using brand new IMAX film technology. So it looks like it's a lot to look forward to with the big screens.
Yes, indeed. And, it's quite instructive. Just keep writing, Kadi. Who knows? Your work may be recreated 2,000 years from now.
Well, yeah, I see where you came in.
Yeah.
Nice one. I like that. And this is a call to everybody. Your present right now, your reality right now will someday become history, either as a lesson or as a note of caution to people. So it's important to just live the best of lives. It will be a good lesson, a good encouragement to people in the coming years, decades, and centuries. Bukola.
History is documenting, right?
Oh, yes.
Either actively or passively.
And that's what we're doing with the news.
Absolutely. Speaking of documenting, it's time now to start with your thoughts on the big stories making making rounds this morning, and we'll be starting with this one. Ghanaian government, I believe, has approved visa-free entry for all African countries' nationals. This is huge for those who love to travel. And Omwakin Scott is the first user who says this is the way to go in Africa. Let there be a kind of Schengen visa program for African Union.
We need to take a pause, take a moment, and just ask why travel inside Africa, within Africa, is so problematic, is so stressful, is so expensive. And it's the irony, Bukola.
Why, you know, businessmen and women would prefer to import from China, you know, than to buy other stuff from within Africa. You know, it begs the question. It's unsettling, to say the least.
So that's been escalated now to business. They might say they get it cheaper from China on the one hand because they've been able to, you know, get that economies of scale. Now they produce at a cheaper rate. That's on the one hand. But for people who just want to go next door, you find out that it's even more expensive traveling within Africa than traveling outside of Africa.
Sometimes.
And it doesn't make sense as much because when you go outside Africa, people say, oh, you're from Africa. Right, and we always say no because we see Africa as a country, right? But it doesn't feel that way. It looks like you're traveling from continent to continent within Africa. So I think this is a way to go. Very, very commendable. I am looking at other countries now within the African region. I know some in West African sub-region have said, well, we're also opening our doors. Incidentally, those nations are under military rule. But let's go on to the next comment on this. This user says the best thing to do, very commendable. It's ludicrous that Africans have to pass through unnecessary processes to travel to other African countries. The EU is an example, perfect example. You can drive through EU countries, just take a road trip and you're going across 5, 6 countries without stress.
Yeah, and you know, it's noteworthy to also say that the president, through his diplomatic missions, you know, has helped to eliminate some of the restrictions in securing South African visas as well. South Africa is also another country that is almost impossible to get their visa if you want to travel, even for the most, you know, insignificant of reasons. When I say insignificant now is for want of lack of better description. When you're not staying in that country for long, they still deny you visas. So we hope that the work that the president has begun will eliminate all of those needless restrictions, you know, to foster increased bilateral relations on many levels with our own kith and kin here on the continent in Africa. But what else are you saying this morning? Senior man says, at least this will encourage tourists from her African brothers and sisters. You should have done this before Christmas, not after. I hope I jumped to the last, right?
Yeah, that's Baba Ade, who says that, oh yes, this one encourages tourism. But this user, Baba Ade, says, normally any country that does not open its doors for Africans should have same throwback at them. That's the reciprocity principle. Says, but trust me, most Africans will abuse that privilege and then boom, they have stricter access. See EU, for example. I understand that you're trying to sound like caution, encourage people to be cautious and all of that, but I think this is a point we should just talk about opening the doors. Yes, put some measures in place, but let's change the narrative. You can't keep doing the same things and expect a different result. That is what they call madness.
And so let's also hope that the AFTA, African Free Trade Area Continental Agreement, will also kick into effective implementation such that we'll see greater ease within other African countries on the continent, not just Ghana and South Africa. Yeah, so let's move on to other stories now. The one that is very worrying right now, which we'll be talking about on the program today in Sokoto State. We told you earlier about that airstrike that killed 10 people, whom the military has described as Lakrawa bandits. Governor Aliu has visited those communities and has donated 20 million naira to the victims' families. So the first user this morning on this one is Veritas View, who says, I wonder what kind of training our Air Force officers in Nigeria receive that makes it challenging for them to execute precise airstrike operations on intended targets. Instead, they end up hitting civilian communities, leading to unnecessary casualty. This isn't the first time such an incident has occurred, and it raises serious concerns about operational accuracy and intelligence.
It's important to state right now that a lot of the comments coming out first are hundreds or even thousands of kilometers away from the theater of war itself. It's important, and I think it's great that authorities have said this will be investigated. If the military is saying we did this with precision, and you have some other people saying, well, no, you didn't, who then do we believe? And that's where the investigation, a thorough investigation comes in. But it's important to state that a lot of people do not really have an understanding of the war going on. So we understand that a lot of people will speak from their own knowledge, sometimes from their own biases, but let's allow the experts to do their job and have some trust in them. But this is something we're going to get into. The next user is Mohammed Abdul Karim, says that when this costly mistake, or when will this costly mistake stop in our alien country? I imagine that's what you want
he meant to say. Yeah.
But as we said earlier on, this is an ongoing issue. It's the military's word against some of the community leaders and the state government's word. So we'll dive into this one to ensure that everybody gets some more informed perspective. Because issues of security, particularly fighting these kinds of terrorist and bandits, is always very, very delicate. Very
delicate. But I imagine, Kadi, that there are leaders of the communities in question, 2 villages in Silama local government area. They can identify these people. They can provide information, about who they are, where they're from, what they were doing in the community at the time. Let's have their identities and, check out with what the military is saying so that we can know whether indeed they are Lakrawa, members of the Lakrawa sect, or they're members of the community, that local government area.
And it sounds straightforward, Bukola, but we've had cases where community leaders, community members provide intelligence, and what do they get in return? They get reprisals. Some of the terrorists come back and attack them. And there's this popular saying, terrorists to some people, freedom fighter to another people or another group of people. So again, some of the injury cases,
a thin line.
Very thin line, but not to worry. We'll get you all of the insight you need on that one. But let's take a moment and move to just one final issue. Federal government committing 122 billion naira to promote CNG for transportation. CNG has now become gold, Bukola. Both conversion and even getting
the product
itself. I'm talking 1 year, 2 years ago, CNG, people were being begged to convert to CNG, but now it's even out of reach for the average person, talking about 1 million plus. This first user, Pakwando Avutu, says the same government aren't using or converting their vehicles to CNG. Okay, grid energy is the future we intend to preserve, but let promoters practice what they preach. We've had some of them say, well, we've converted. Some advisors saying I have converted. Some agencies also trying to convert as well, but clearly not as widespread as you'd expect it to be.
Has the presidency converted? Have the ministries converted to CNG? We should ask those questions. Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Trade, Industry, Investment, Ministry of Agriculture, do they have all their vehicles converted from petrol use to CNG? So let's have those answers.
Practice what you preach.
Papando, thank you so much for that comment.
It'll be good to see the president riding a CNG powered vehicle, right? Like, I'm doing it, guys.
And let's also have, the cost implication of their conversion. By that I mean, how it has helped reduce, the cost of powering those vehicles, their maintenance, as against what it was during
and by extension cost of governance, right?
Yes, and exactly, cost of governance.
Brilliant.
So all those are very important. Let's go on to Dr. Pina, who says, while the 122 billion naira commitment to CNG is a step forward, the real test will be ensuring its accessibility and affordability to the masses. We need clear plans on how this will directly impact fuel prices, reduce transportation costs, and tackle the challenges in the energy sector. So questions should also be asked about, the direction of the investment of this 122 billion naira. How many more CNG conversion centers is the federal government planning across the country? As it is now, we have just about 5, one in Lagos, one in Kwara, one in Abuja, I think one in Edo State or so. I don't know where the other is. And that's why you have a scarcity of CNG CNG in the country. When you go to some CNG centers, there's a long line of vehicles, waiting to convert or waiting to purchase the products. In fact, there is an abundance of petrol while there's a scarcity of CNG itself.
I know that there's a lot of training going on. They're trying to scale up, but clearly nothing close to the demand. You see trucks, a lot of these logistics companies now, Dangote, the rest, their trucks run on CNG now.
Oh, as a matter
so
of
they're
fact,
even competing.
They're on the expressway, the CNG center, just on Lagos expressway here.
In Abuja as well. Or you're away from the airport, you see that long line. And you're wondering, obviously cars don't stand a chance because you have about 20 trucks already, and you know the kind of quantity of CNG they will need.
And it will be a good time to also remind the presidential initiative on CNG about its plan to provide CNG kits, and I think, what do they call them now? Rickshaws, yes.
For the tricycles.
The tricycles, to youths in Kwara State. We haven't seen that materialize. Maybe it's in the works, but it was a promise made in partnership with the Ministry of Youth.
So let 2025 be the year you promise and fulfill the promise with speed. But that's the much we can take, at least for now. We'll take a moment, and we're starting off with a very thorny and delicate issue, the Sokoto air strikes. What exactly went down? We'll bring you those information and the politics playing out in our ivory towers. It's quite interesting, really.
Yes, that's where we'll be headed.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So stay with us right here.
We'll be right back.
Well, it's like deja vu all over again. Accidental airstrike. The government is calling it. The military saying, well, we did this with precision. And we're sure that those who were targeted are linked to the Lakurawa group. But an investigation will be conducted. Now, what does this do to the fight against banditry, terrorism? What does this do to the military-civilian relationship? How does this affect security in Nigeria and, of course, in the sub-region? I mean, it's a whole lot to unpack, and these are very delicate issues. So on the show this morning, we're bringing you Informed Decision. We're joined by Brigadier General Jonathan Temlong, who's first commander of a multinational joint task force, MNJTF, expert in counterinsurgency operations. Welcome to the Morning Brief, retired Brigadier General Temlong. We also have joining us Mr. Awal Rafsanjani, who's Executive Director of CISLAC. CISLAC is a civil society legislative advocacy center, also joining us virtually. Welcome to the Morning Brief. And we have Abdul Karim Haruna, who is a conflict reporter with first-hand knowledge of terrorism and military engagement in northern Nigeria. As a chairman of NUJ Borno State and conflict reporter Northeast region. You're welcome to the Morning Brief, Mr. Haruna. Naturally, I'll begin with you, Brigadier General Temlong. I know that you've been on the field, you've been in command center, and now watching what is playing out. We had this exactly 1 year ago, but we didn't have this controversy. The military saying, well, we are certain that this was precise, and the community leaders, government saying, no, the people who were killed, some of them were actually villagers. What do you make of the narrative from, will I say, both sides now, Brigadier General?
Well, thank you very much. Good morning. Your audio is not very clear, but because I'm speaking in one of the remote in my village in Peel for Christmas, it's quite unfortunate that this sort of killings keep going on, and my heart goes out to the families of those who are lost. But basically, I think the most important thing is that there is the intelligence that we have is not quite adequate, because if you just see before Christmas, there were killings in Jos here and Borno and all over the country. It seems that these people are taking advantage of the fact that we have an open community and the citizens are not up and doing exposing them, because they live within us and they take intelligence and know our movements and how lax we are. The citizens do not seem to be passing information to the appropriate authority where you can actually deal with those actionable things. Fortunately, yesterday I talked to our lawyers, the Tarok Lawyers Forum on community security and early warning systems that can be put in place. And an early warning system will be meaningless if it cannot monitor, detect, and communicate to the appropriate authorities and even to the citizens. And so it appears as if we are yet to get our acts together as a country on community security and early warning systems. And once we're able to do that, once we're able to monitor as citizens, not even as while the traditional military and the DSS police, NIA are monitoring and detecting too. The citizens are the most important aspects, part of it, that they monitor, detect, and report. And once they report, these are turned into actionable intelligence, and we nip some of these things in the bud. It's quite unfortunate that day in, day out, they keep surprising us, and sometimes even the armed forces and the security agencies are surprised too by the spread of attack that they do, because if you find out that they do some of these raids, there's a lot of secrecy and surprise that is achieved. I believe that if we up our games in the intelligence, and that behoves on the Directorate of Civil, State Security,
right?
The civil defense and the rest of train and build the capacity of our citizens on security awareness, early warning systems, detection.
Pardon me, Brigadier General.
A community that is resilient.
Right. Pardon me, Brigadier General. I need to quickly get your intervention on this point. You raised quite a number of issues. If you can hear me, Brigadier General, speak to us about the kind of rigor, planning that goes into whatever mission that the military wants to conduct, either air, water, or land. Just how much rigor goes into it? Give the people a benefit of, an insight into that.
Well, a lot of rigor goes into planning in military operations and military operations. If a commander has not got accurate and actionable intelligence about what he's doing, he's like a blind man walking in a forest trying to search for a pin. And that's exactly what it is. So it's especially the asymmetric operations, it's intelligence based. And so the rigors of intelligence and planning, or the quantum of intelligence that you need in planning cannot be overemphasized. And that intelligence must be actionable. It's not that you cited people or you believe was rumors, these beer parlor rumors that they go about. So, there will be imminent attack this Christmas and the rest. Yes, if there's going to be an attack in this Christmas, where do you think they are coming from? What sort of people are coming? What their strength? What sort of equipment are they using? What are the likely routes they are going to take? These are the things that happen. With that, then the security agencies that are trained in analyzing this information and making them into intelligence, because intelligence itself is a process, it's a cycle. So information is different from intelligence. It has to be processed into intelligence. So it's quite a big rigor. And that means the community too will be engaged, because it's supposed to be bottom up. And so even the community should be involved in the rigors of planning, because sometimes not that you divulge your secret to them, but they should be able to be coming up and giving. And then once you're able to build a community that is resilient, they know what actions to take immediately they see or they notice some early warning signs and red flags that are coming in.
All right, Brigadier
and with
General,
that, they are able to...
pardon me. Thank you for that insight. Thank you for that insight. I'll come back to some of the points you have made, but I'd like to bring in Mr. Rafsanjani here. He's from the civil society, and he's raised issues, organizations like his have raised issues about the conduct of some of these operations. So, Mr. Rafsanjani, this is what the CDS said, that we have individuals that still harbor those people, and once you do that, you make yourself a target. Our appeal is please do not allow them hang around you, do not give them any support in whatever means. And he went on to say that there was a lot of planning and precision in this particular one. It's an operation that was conducted, and they followed up to ensure that they avoided mistakes as much as possible. So hearing the military's point of view, what do you make of that?
I think one of the major problems that we have in Nigeria is that rather than really facing the challenges or the issues, we kind of do blame games. The reality is that we have a major problems that has to do with the collapse of institutions in Nigeria. And sadly, it involves the security agencies. The absence of information sharing, coordination, and also taking decisive action, and more importantly, to actually put priority for protecting the citizens rather than looking at the gains, rather than looking at the ways in which you can actually focus to achieve the objective of safety and protection. So you find out that right from the beginning, the recruitment process is faulty. It's shrouded with corruption. People that are not even supposed to be recruited, they are recruited, and when they are recruited, not much proper training is given to them. So these are all contributed to the failure of proper coordination within the security agencies. It also helps to remove the real patriotism of securing the country and the people. Otherwise, these people that you are talking about, that communities are harboring, these are people that are not necessarily living inside the community. They are even not living within the community. They migrate, they come, to those communities. So the communities are even, many of them are afraid, and they saw them visibly. Usually they will come in machine. But because they security themselves of institutional strength and facilities and equipment, so they will allow them to have their day. Otherwise, they move freely, and nobody is, detecting them, or nobody is dealing with them. Look, we have moved away in this world. We have moved away from analog security in this world. There is a technology going on where you can even sit down and through situation room that you can be able to monitor and navigate the movement, of some of these people. But because the interest is not really about protecting, the people now, it is about, either what I get out of it, either because agencies are struggling to say, okay, I'm the one who is going to charge of it because there's money involved in it. That's the truth about it, So corruption in the security sector, poor, cooperation and coordination, poor information sharing, and more importantly, also prioritizing the safety and security of the people. These are the major reasons why you keep on having this problem. I think, again, really where these problems are happening are people who simply don't even know their right. It happens usually in the north, and of course in the north it's easy to kill people and move on without having any.
All right, Mr. Rafsanjani, we hope that
this happens. You just them and then move on. If you are lucky, you apologize. If you are not lucky, sometimes, you will not even apologize. You will continue to do blame game. Otherwise, you cannot have police, DSS, NIA. You cannot have all these security officers that are supposed to be able to gather information, process it intelligently, and make sure that you do not go and bombard those who you are not supposed to bombard. When we were growing, we know how SSS used to penetrate into various public institutions, and they are able to penetrate into universities, into hospitals, into so many places, and be able to identify and carry out operations successfully, because they did not just go to announce that they are coming. In the case of Nigeria, sometimes you hear officials are announcing that we are going there, or we are going to crush them. I think we need to do a lot in terms of the way and manner in which we structure our intelligence, gathering and action. And I don't think you are even applying any intelligence now in Nigeria. I think it is just operation that is going on without really too much investment in terms of strategic, focus on where you are going to carry out this action. Otherwise, you should be able to isolate the people that you are targeting through even technology. You can even sit down. There's a lot of technology now that you can sit down and navigate where they are.
All right. And that is the expectation.
Satellite.
Yeah, Mr. Rafsanjani, that is the expectation really from the Nigerian military, particularly because this is happening time and again. We remember Ran and Tudumbiri, and now it's a Silma local government area in Sokoto state. Let's look at the community now this time, because the word is out there that these communities are known to be prone to infiltration of bandits. But how true is it? And that's why I'm coming to you, Mr. Haruna. What can you tell us from your own experience as a conflict reporter about these communities? Is it true, that they have been infiltrated by bandits? And then what else can you say, about the presence of other security agents in these communities, in this local government area? Is there a police station nearby to help us understand how much intelligence sharing may have gone in the process of this mission or not have gone in the process of this mission, and what civil-military relations is like, such that the people would rather not trust the military with information and harbor bandits?
Good morning. Thank you very much. But having listened to the two guests that have spoken earlier, I want to, of course, they've made their points. But in my own experience as a journalist.
All right, I'll come to you, Brigadier Temlong. Perhaps you have insight into that as well. Maybe you want to speak to that.
Well, thank you very much. I think let me correct some factual this thing about what Rafsanjani has said. I know Awal very well, who had the national conference with him in 2017. I think it's preposterous to say that there is no cooperation between the services. When we talk about intelligence itself, the whole thing is that it is the community. What you are dealing with is not like sitting down in a classroom and throwing out a blame game in your office or in the confines of your homes. Intelligence comes out from a product and a process. The citizens are greatly involved in this intelligence process and making them available. There is a difference between human intelligence and technology. Technology can spot the movement of people to you, but they will not be able to tell you who are moving. Technology can spot Rafsanjani in his village or in his house. It can spot Temlong, but it will not tell you who is Temlong and who is Rafsanjani. It is the human intelligence that will tell you that it is Rafsanjani and these are his plans and this is what he's doing from his observations and movements and the rest. So the critical aspect of getting human intelligence whose involved emanates from the citizens themselves is very critical. Where you have citizens who collaborate, and that's very unfortunate because how did the Lakurawas come into Nigeria? They were brought in by the chief of a place. So you cannot come and then blame the police. Yes, please.
Yes, Brigadier Temlong, even if, technology is only able to identify people without much, without telling whether they're terrorists or not, if this is an accident, it speaks also to the low level of civil-military relations in the community. If there's a division, an army division on ground, combating terrorism in that community, to what extent are they relating with the community members such that they can gain the trust of the community members if indeed they are harboring terrorists, and provide the military with the information? And it also speaks to the question I asked Mr. Haruna about the presence of other security agencies on ground as well. What is happening to intelligence sharing in that space? Because this is happening too often.
Unfortunately, when you say there's a division in that area, a division is not deployed. This is not a conventional operation where a division is deployed on the ground attacking. No, this is an asymmetric threat where you have pockets of threats in communities. So it's not a divisional operation like you say, but these are operations that are being carried out by small elements of the military. So the idea of civil military, yes, there are, but then to what extent is the society itself? It's not just the DSS and the police, but the society itself. Once it is a connivance of the society, and the society has gone to bring in people, the chief of a place or the traditional ruler of a place has gone to bring in people to help them, they will not revolt against him. To what extent do you think the loyalty is? When you talk about citizenship and loyalty in this country, you find out that there are some people who are more loyal to their tribes and religions than the country. Patriotism is not even there. So you can't blame civil military or you can't blame the intelligence community. Let's start building a country of citizens who are patriotic and loyal to the country, not to their religion, not to their tribes, not to their rulers and the rest, but to the country as a whole. That you swear by the Constitution that you will defend that Constitution. So I think the blame game should, we're trying to build resilient communities. In my place, I've started as a place, like I told you yesterday, we had engagements with our lawyers trying to build a resilient community, a community that can work on early warning systems, working on their own community security system. We did that again with traditional rulers this month. We did that with traditional rulers, with church leaders, with youth groups, with women groups, and the rest. These were done by, headed by a reverend gentleman who was an NGO, and he brought me in to help in building this capacity. So everybody should start doing this, because once you cannot, and why are they taking advantage? He says that the people there are not literate or sort of thing. Yes.
All right.
Are we not happy that our children are out of school?
All right, Brigadier Temlong, there's so many...
build a body of Almajiris who come...
Yes, so there are many factors that go into building resilient communities, and on the matter of the connivance, of members of the community with terrorists, that also has to be established by an independent panel of investigators. But let's try again with Mr. Haruna and see if his network is okay now. Mr. Haruna, go ahead with your answer to the question about the community, how probable it is that it's one that harbors terrorists.
Well, these terrorists do not live off the land, my dear.
I believe
they live on the communities.
Mr. Haruna, the question is for you. Pardon me, Brigadier Temlong. Oh, well, technology is not always a silver bullet. We'll try this again with you, Mr. Haruna, later, but we'll just have to go ahead with Brigadier Temlong now.
Okay.
Yeah, you see, these communities, these terrorists or the bandits, they don't live off the ground. They live off the communities. They buy the fuel for their machines from the communities. They buy food from the communities. They buy medicine from the communities. Sometimes they even use doctors. I think you don't need an independent body to verify this. You remember there was a German lady that was kidnapped around Guso and the rest, and there was a doctor who was being brought in from Kaduna, who, when she was pregnant, to be checking her. Is that not the community? We have had bakeries that were solely providing bread for bandits in Nigeria here. And the people are happy. And I'll give you an example. I've done that and it has worked. You see, we had a situation where I told them that how can a market woman, in the communities, they know themselves. Somebody walks in and buys the whole of her akara that she has made that morning. Her customers have not come. He buys the whole of her cocoa, which is like a camu, and carries it away. He is not living in that community. Where is he taking them to? He comes and buys bread for over 50 people, and then they shy and moves away. The man there is happy that, or the woman is happy that she has sold her wares. But those things have been taken to people who are in the bush, who will come back to attack them. Then there are those who come back and buy drugs, and they have their suppliers, and they know they're taking them to. So you see, when I did that talk on TV one time, a community came back to thank me that, look, that at Baraban Jama in Jos area too, they had that situation. Some people used to come and buy food in bulk, and they were not part of those community. And so they became curious, and lo and behold, they were taking food to bandits. And so it led to a security operation that busted the place. So I think we need to be able to look.
Well, I think that...
accept that we have real challenges.
Right.
That we have.
Right. Pardon me, Brigadier General, quite an insight, really, you just gave. But it's also been said that some of these people are as much victims, really. Some of them, they wish they could speak, but they've seen the case of other communities that spoke out or shared intelligence, and they became, casualties eventually. So it's a delicate balance, ensuring that these people are also protected, because some of them, as I said, are victims. Well, let me see if we can get Mr. Rafsanjani on this one, but quite vital insight there, Brigadier General. So, Mr. Rafsanjani, Brigadier General raised issues about some of the points you made earlier on, saying, well, it's one thing to be, kilometers away in your office and speak about these things. It's another thing to be right in it, to have that understanding of what's playing out. And he's also said that a lot of these communities may just be complicit or do not ask those right questions or raise those issues. I wonder what your response will be to that, Mr. Rafsanjani.
Well, my response to this is that if we are all going to really do this analysis based on the facts on the ground, we all know how corruption has penetrated into the security sector. Look, General, you are very much aware of the extortion that you see going on in the various communities. In fact, you can see even in the Northeast, the various checkpoints that you have are not to checkmate the criminals or the bandit or the terrorists. They are to extort money. Look, various communities, even in the Southeast, all the checkpoints, in fact, shamelessly, even in Abuja now, from one place to another, you will see about 7 checkpoints. What are they taking? Nothing but collecting money. So both the army that used to be respected by the people and people are afraid of them, now they have joined this extortion of 50 naira, 100 naira, and they are not searching anything. All that they will do, just pay your money and move. So they don't care what you are even carrying in the, in your vehicles or in the machine or in whatever thing you are, doing. They are just desperately wanting to collect this money. Especially, for example, this kind of period of Christmas and New Year, the level of, semi-robbery that some of the security officials are doing in this country allows these criminals to move freely with whatever they carry, once they will give the money. So I think, General, we also need to understand that there's limit at which the communities will expose this thing, and if they do that and the security did not give positive response to it, and rather they get attacked, you will then not blame them that for their safety, they will not be able to talk. And the kind of people we are talking about, General, they are not these peasants. These are people who, come in 200, 300 machines, and, so where are the officials? Where are the intelligent when this kind of large movement is happening in communities? They are coming and they do this and they get away with it, and they are not hiding. So the real people that we are talking about are people who they have chosen to do this in a very unified way, not in a scattered or not in an unorganized way. They are very organized. When they come to do this operation, they do it successfully and they move out. And it is after they have done their operation, then the security will now come out. So let us admit that we have institutional failure in dealing with the insecurity and terrorism in Nigeria. And until we have that, acknowledgement, we might not be able to, correct some of the things that are happening. If it is just to be blaming these poor people who have been attacked, who are under perpetual attack. For example, in Katsina, in Zamfara, and many places, even when they have come to kill them, massacre them, when they report, they also get the terrorists, they got information who reported, and they come against them. So the attack, the people that are doing this are people who have no fear of God. They are people who are not interested in anything rather than just to carry out these perpetual inhuman atrocities against the people in Nigeria. They are not necessarily resident in those places. They come for mission and they do their whatever they want to do. They settle in a place for a particular period of time, and the security are not able to even near where those people are. And the point we are talking about here is that until we are not ready to address this problem, it's not even for the bombardment that we are talking about, for the fact that as a trained security personnel, you should be able to develop strategy in which you can be in a community that you can disguise. I gave an example. When we were students in the university, we did not know some of the SSS people following us around. It was much later that we were able to know that this person is but now there's so much impatience even within the security agencies. Everyone is just looking for money. Let us just say the truth. Corruption, and the capital accumulation within the security sector is one of the major reasons why they are not able to concentrate and do their work. Secondly, regime protection and personal official protection rather than the citizens' protection is what is the prevailing thing. How many, if you look at the kind of security that you have for an individual's official or for somebody that bought his own security from the government using public taxpayers' money to be guiding him alone. I give you an example. In Kano, there's somebody who, if you go and see his resident, he has over between 30 to 40 between policemen and army and DSS guiding him. Whereas you need communities to have this security presence there. They are not prioritizing it. So prioritization of even the citizens' safety is not, in most times, is not what is there. So it is an overall issue that we should all look at.
Yeah, let's give Brigadier Temlong the opportunity to respond to some of the things that you have said. He's talked about institutional failings in the military. He's talked about the inefficacies of the checkpoints, where what goes on is more of extortion. He talks about the inability of the military to even go to the locations where some of the terrorists are. Talking about the reactive rather than proactive approach of the military, amongst other things that you may want to talk about, Brigadier.
Well, thank you very much. I think he is a comrade, so he can say those things. I think it would be an overstatement to say that there is an institutional, there's an institutional failure on the side of the military. It's not a military policy as a policy that encourages men to extort or to this thing. Anybody, this military is self-cleansing. I'll tell you because any report that is made about any soldier officer who is extorting money on checkpoints or anywhere, he is dealt with squarely. In fact, there were some that I was here on a weekend and I had some reports of some of them doing some illegal duties somewhere. And immediately I put a call across to the commander, and within 10 minutes, he had called me that they have apprehended them. And I tell you, they were being court-martialed because they found out that they were culpable of the illegal act. So that is the military that it is for you. It's not hidden. It's not because it is the community that reported to me. They found out that I was born for Christmas. So I think it's never an institutional thing. When you talk about corruption, corruption is all over. I wouldn't want to give you the Hausa adage that said, "Imberan the Sata, the Dawamana the Wari." It's all over the place that corruption is an endemic thing in the society. And the Nigerians that from where you are picking the military or the DSS chaps are Nigerians, and those who are who have certain values. That's why I say we must start this thing bottom up.
Right.
It is the politicians that actually bring in the people that you say they are not qualified. The chairman of the various committees in the House, Senate, they are politicians, they are civilians. They influence a lot of these things, but I know that the military do a lot of rigors too. They're trying to check to make sure they're there, but there's so much pressure. So I think the issue of corruption is not something that is a policy of the military.
All right.
It's not tolerated, and that. But I think one important thing to note is that, look, when you talk about this, there are cases, and I'll tell you because it's an open secret. Once the military leaves their location and they're driving towards a location that they have information that terrorists have gathered around that place, they are telephoning the terrorists at that moment. In fact, sometimes with the video photographs of the quantity, quality, and the type of armaments that they are moving on with. What do you think some of these ambushes that they are doing succeeds in, on the way when military are going? So I think let's look at these things. These are our boys, and you are dealing with an asymmetric threat.
All right,
these people are not. Look, how many of the terrorists are not Nigerians? They are Nigerians. Let's face it. Even in the casino you're talking about, they know their homes, they know their relations. Is it not the same casino area that they said that the people went? I saw it on the social media that they went on when they kidnapped certain people. They went and kidnapped their families too. And the terrorists were forced, the bandits were forced to return those people. So it's all over. Once the community decides to say enough is enough, whatever it is, it will be enough. So I think the problem is that we must be able to get people who are patriotic.
Well, Brigadier General, we have to anchor at this point, but very important points have been made about the work that needs to be done, definitely to improve the work that the military does to, weed out some of these corrupt elements whom you agree with, but you say it's not institutional, ultimately to ensure that this fight against banditry, terrorism, keeps waxing stronger rather than, wane. But we have to thank you so much for the benefit of your insight. Brigadier General Jonathan Temlong, retired, first commander of a multinational joint task force, so he brings to bear a lot of experience, also an expert in counter-insurgency operations in Nigeria, as well as the executive director of CISLAC, Mr. Awal Rafsanjani. Thank you so much. We also had briefly Mr. Abdul Karim Haruna, conflict reporter, chairman NUJ, Borno State. We'll have to thank you so much for your time and wish you the very best during the Yuletide and in the coming year. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We wish Nigerians the same too.
General.
I see. Perhaps we'll continue that conversation behind the scenes, but clearly a lot of work needs to be done. And we'll stay with this particular story to get some closure in terms of the investigation and the communities affected themselves. But we'll take a moment now. When we return, we'll talk politics, but in a very different setting, not something you're quite used to. So stay with us right here. The Ivory Towers is our next focus. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. And so we move on to the next leg of our conversation, which is politics, this time of a different nature within the Ivory Towers, as Kadi said earlier. So the process of appointing a university vice chancellor should be seamless, right? It shouldn't, cause any hullabaloo within the polity. But it appears that, it's a departure from the norm in the University of Abuja with recent events in the last couple of days. And we have joining us to have this conversation to bring us clarity about what exactly is happening. We have Professor Ralph Akinfele, former chairman, head of UNILAG Mass Communication Department. He's also representing Africa on the Governing Council of the World Journalism Education Congress. And currently, Professor Akinfele is on the governing board of the University of Abuja. Good morning, sir, and thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yes, indeed. And we also have joining us from our Abuja studio, via Zoom rather, Professor Abubakar Umar Kari. He's the Dean, Student Affairs, University of Abuja. And Professor Kari, thank you for joining us on the program. Naturally, I'll start with you. Since you are in the University of Abuja, you give us, an aerial view of what exactly is happening. But I also want you to speak specifically to two issues while you're doing that. A statement put out by the university has said that, the reports about harassment of journalists has been exaggerated, but we have reports that our own correspondent was harassed when they came to cover, the events in the University of Abuja just a couple of days ago. And also perhaps you want to tell us how true it is that there will be a meeting by the acting vice chancellor with Senate members where she's supposed to be lobbying to extend her tenure.
Thank you for having me. Good morning, Nigerians. I think you have asked a couple of questions. I don't know from where to start.
You can start with any that you choose. Start from anyone, sir. Okay, we'll get back to Professor Kari when the network is more clement. Let's come to the studio now. Professor Akinfele, give us an insight into what really goes into the appointment of the Vice Chancellor of a university and why, this is different, the case of University of Abuja.
Well, thank you very much for that question. But before I go on to elaborate, I want the whole world to know that we, the so-called progressive on the council, we have written a minority report. We are not supporting anybody, any candidate. We are not also opposing any candidate. But we are based with the standing 4 pillars of the present administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. 4 pillars. 1, transparency, accountability, due process, rule of law, and not law of the rule. Therefore, we are guided by those 4 principles, and we must follow it to the logical conclusion. And that's why it appears to me that the University of Abuja, if you may allow me, stinks with reckless disregard to due processes, and have examples that I will tell you briefly. Let's start. We made a divided university. And the last administration of the university was very clever in divide and rule. At our inauguration, there was tension all over. In fact, we didn't meet at the University of Abuja campus. We met in an hotel because ASU was on strike. And the Senate representative on the council were selected by the previous administration, including the acting vice chancellor. And as we said, we cannot go forward. There's a litigation in the court by some professors challenging the process of election of those internal members of council and also appointment of an acting vice chancellor. As we were meeting, the current election that was happening, they came in, we said, we cannot talk to you because there's a case in court. But luckily for us, at the end of the day, court ruled that they can be admitted. Okay, we started with them. And during that process, ASU was on strike for 83 days. We had some students who were receiving lectures. Many other students were not receiving lectures. They were outside there selling coconut and oranges and watermelon. And yet they must graduate at the same time. The lecturers were divided into two, pro and con. Through the help of God and through the instrumentality of the new council, the 10th council, we were able to persuade ASU to return to work. After 83 days, they returned to work and everything has been very peaceful. We were lucky, we said to ourselves, we have achieved something. Now for us to process, there was backlog of appointment and promotion. There were cases of indiscipline. There were cases where files of lecturers are missing. There are files where lecturers have been suspended and not paying their salary for months, and nobody is talking about that.
Spillover of work done by the last administration.
Yes. Now, coming back to the reckless disregard to due process, I start with some examples. I'm telling you what happened. I'm talking from level of understanding of what happened, and not theory. Eyewitness report I'm giving. One, we started with the appointment of the bursar. The bursar appointment started, but it was inconclusive by the last council members. So about 13 of them were invited, conducted interview. Federal character people were there to observe the proceedings. At the end of the day, federal character told us that we did very well and it was excellent performance. So everybody in the panel scored, and based on 100%. The highest scorer scored about 77.8%. The second scored 65 point something. And when we're presenting the result, some of the people in the university said that we should drop the highest scorer and take the second lowest scorer. And then we asked why. They said because that person is an insider. Then I told the chancellor, well, if you wanted an insider, why can't you write the government, say you do inside advert rather than external advert? We are not going to succumb to this violation of merit. Eventually, the highest scorer was appointed. Another violation came to the issue of appointment and advertisement for the vice chancellor. A letter was written by the immediate past vice chancellor to the Ministry of Education.
That's Professor Nala.
Yeah, no, Nala, yes. Yeah. Wrote a letter to the Ministry of Education in the absence of no council. Can we advertise for the position of a vice chancellor, which normally to take 6 months? So a letter stated that at least a professor applying must have 10 years of being a professor. The letter was sent to the former Minister of Education, and they replied, the university, that they now shut down 10 to 5 years and never advertised by March 2024 for 5 years. It must be 5 years after being a professor.
Yeah.
So this was to settle the crisis within the institution,
yes,
where some lecturers are protesting and the others are for,
yes,
right? So
exactly.
To get somebody, outside the system,
yes, sir,
to be appointed as vice chancellor.
Yes. Now, the council now came out because of the agitation by ASU and some members that we should re-advertise. And I said, why? They said because that advert was done when the ASU was on strike. And the former VC did that one. Okay, we considered we want to advertise. So the council came in, tried to deliberate on how to advertise and what are the criteria. And I, Professor Ralph Akinfele, a member of the council, I raised a point of order. I said, Mr. Chairman, honorable council members, if you have applied or you plan to apply, please excuse us. When we were sending to criteria, nobody left. It was shocking to us after the thing has been advertised. And we were told that a member who did not go out during that, my point of order, applied. Can you be a judge in your own court, in your own case? Is it possible? So we were embarrassed. That is not following the due process. Then we are asked to set out the criteria. Before setting out criteria, a search committee was inaugurated. Initially, they wanted me to be the chair. I refused on point of contradictions. Then they appointed a council member, Mrs. Chisholm, to go out and search people, because that's part of the procedure. And they were delayed for almost 3 weeks. Why? Because no release of funds for them to travel. The chairman was glad enough, he was able to say to them, they went.
Right.
To all the geopolitical zones of Nigeria. They came back with their report. 10 people indicated interest, because we designed a form for them, indicated interest. And they were given 1 week to apply, to send their application, 30 copies. After the expiration of that 1 week, only 6 complied. Search committee gave their report. We were asked to add that 6 to the original number of 81 that we got before. We got 81 before from the first and second advert. And out of that 81, 21 from the University of Abuja. Then we added that 6. So now we have currently 87 applications, with 22 from the university.
Pardon me, Prof.
Yes.
Pardon me to butt in here. I'd like you to pause that trail of thought, because I understand that we have Professor Carey now.
Okay.
Just to get him to respond to the earlier question, then we'll come back to the work being done. So, Professor Carey, over to you now. The question that was put to you earlier on, and I know you've had the benefit of listening to Professor Akinfele as well. So I'd like you to speak to that quickly, so we can get to what exactly is happening right now, the controversy boiling at this point. Prof, over to you now.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm sorry for the technical glitch. Let me state from the outset that I am not the spokesperson of the University of Abuja. And therefore, there are certain issues that I'm not competent to answer, but I'll answer them to the best of my knowledge. You mentioned the issue of harassment of journalists. I don't think there was anything like that. I know that there was an unfortunate incident where some people invited journalists to the campus on Tuesday when there was supposed to be a Senate meeting. And on their way out, after covering the event, after conducting the interviews with the people that invited them, our local security people, for reason best known to them, and I personally joined in scolding them, stop their buses, your own bus, Channel TV, and deflated their tires and asked them to wait. But the matter was later resolved. I do not think that constitutes harassment. Journalists are entering the campus all the time. As I'm talking to you now, there are a battery of journalists right now in front of the University of Abuja campus. Some of them are inside. They have come to cover some activities. That is by the way. It is also very important to state that I am a product of the University of Abuja. I graduated from there. I was a member of the pioneer set, and in the last 31 years, I have been almost wholly involved in the university. Therefore, with due respect to my senior colleague, Professor Raf Akinfele, I should be able to discuss the politics of the university much more than him. There are certain claims that he made that are contradictory, and some of them, with due respect, are not exactly correct. But I'll begin with the minority report that he mentioned. It is very, very interesting for a minority report to come out when there is no majority report. To the best of my knowledge, the governing council of the University of Abuja is still in the process of appointing a vice chancellor. No decision has been taken on that. And therefore, it is unfortunate that somebody who's supposed to be part of the process decided, for reason best known to him, having called himself progressive. This is a council that comprises more than 10 members, and only 2 members call themselves progressives and broke run, to the consternation of the entire university. We believe that we expected much more from our senior colleagues in terms of adherence to the due process that he seriously canvasses for. That is one. Second, he mentioned about the university being divided by the former vice chancellor. I don't know the basis of that claim. There was a problem in the University of Abuja, just like there have been problems in other universities from time to time. And all these problems are usually resolved amicably or through the conventional techniques of industrial relations, like what ASU did by going on strike, and all the issues were resolved. It is also very important to mention that I serve as a member of the Governing Council of the University of Abuja between 2017 to 2021 for 4 years during the life of the 8th Council. And therefore, I'm very much familiar with the processes and procedures of appointing a vice chancellor. Therefore, some of the issues being raised or canvassed by Professor Akinfele are very, very much strange, like the issue of tenure professorship. It has no place in logic. It has no place in the law. The only 2 documents that regulate the appointment of a vice chancellor, of course, are the Universities Miscellaneous Act and the University of Abuja Act. And none of them prescribes 10 years as a precondition for a professor to apply. It is even self-contradictory to say that in the earlier advert of March 15, 2024, the number of years in the advert for a prospective candidate to apply was 5 years. In 2017, it was 5 years. And at that same period, 4 other universities also issued out advert for prospective candidates to apply. University of Maiduguri prescribed 5 years.
You can hear me, Professor Kari. Just quickly, let me come in there. What Professor Akinfele said was that the former VC wrote then to the former minister, the ministry at that time, asking that this be brought down to 5 years from 10. Are you aware of that?
That is not correct. That is not correct.
That is not correct? The former VC did not write?
No. What the Vice Chancellor wrote to the former minister was to ask for a permission to issue out advert for Vice Chancellor, not to specifically mention 5 years or 10 years. He was given the permission to do that. And in the advert that he issued, 5 years was the threshold. That one is correct.
All right.
And just as I was saying, at that same period, Usman Amfodio University Sokoto issued out advert. There was no number of years. In fact, 6 different universities issued out advert this year with different number of years as a professor. So, and I want to challenge Professor Akinfele to dispute this. All this hoopla that he has raised was simply because the council refused to allow him to serve on the selection board. That was when he started crisscrossing around the media houses, and as a professor of mass communication, he wields a lot of influence. So he started crisscrossing media houses, complaining that as a professor, he should have been made a member of the selection board. But it is the prerogative of the council to decide who goes to the selection board. It is even unfortunate that he has ethnicized and regionalized that particular agitation. He's claiming that nobody from southern Nigeria has been put in the selection board. With due respect, in 2017, I'm from Bauchi State. I serve on the selection board. The second person on the selection board was Dr. Omar Darofi from Taraba State. Both of us from the Northeast. At that period, the people that emerged from the Senate were Professor Clement Chup from Plateau State and Professor Felicia Anumo from Kogi State. From the North Central. Membership of the selection board.
Professor Kari. All right, some of those points are taken, and I need to mention, you said that deflating of our tires does not constitute harassment, if I got you correctly. I don't know what else will constitute harassment.
I said it was an unfortunate incident committed by people who are barely educated. University security people.
So has the university taken action against those people? What action was taken, and has an apology been officially issued?
I don't know about apology because, as I mentioned, I'm not a spokesperson of the university. But I know the people who did it have been reprimanded. One, they have been taken out of the gate and they have been queried because what they did is quite unfortunate. My first training was as a journalist. I was a reporter, I was a line editor, I was even an editor. So I know the implication of trying to stop journalists from...
Okay, Prof. We'll come back to that because our vehicle was damaged. Our
tripod was reportedly broken as well.
Exactly. Our colleagues were detained. But let me come to Professor Akinfele because he also raised some vital issues. Professor, let me just walk through some of the points Professor Kari raised. He talked about, the point you made about progressives, saying that there are only 2 progressives, people claiming to be progressives. He said that the university was not divided during the time or the tenure of a previous Vice Chancellor, that's Professor Abdurrashid Naala. He also said some of the issues you raised that are strange, talked about you were not happy, that council refused you serving on the selection board, talked about the influence you will, quite a number of issues, Prof. But please respond to them.
Well, I've listened to the professor.
And also the 5-year, the letter written, the 5-year issue as well.
I've listened to the professor, And I laugh. I laugh because his submission is just a compilation of illogical inconsistencies. I am giving an eyewitness report. What is he talking about? That I am not elected as member. Do I have any gain? We are trying to support due process. We don't have any candidate we are supporting or we are not supporting. But it's going to be an embarrassment to the present administration for reckless disregard to due process and the rule of law, not law of the rule. The professor, I can produce a document. I say I'm coming from a point of eyewitness report. That Naaba wrote to the former minister saying that to apply, you must have 10 years of post-professorial rank. And the minister, former minister, replied 5 years. And when they want to advertise the current and second advert, they lower it down. That even a graduate assistant can apply. They're talking of distinguished, accomplished what?
For the post of a university vice chancellor, a graduate assistant.
Yeah, you can't because there's no limit. They didn't know whether you become a professor 1 year or 0 year. From 10 to 5 to now level 0. He's quoting one university of Danfodio. It's Abuja University of Danfodio or the Vanderbilt University of Abuja. If it's not Panadol, it's not Panadol. We are saying that there must be transparency and accountability on this issue. And there's a deviation from that. So to say that I started writing that is a fallacy. I think professor is a brand. And when you attend that gather, you must be objective in what you say. Don't say you want to support issue that lacks sufficient credibility. I proved to this professor to tell me if during the second level of appointment of a bursar, somebody who scored 77.something%, we have to lower it and take second person who is from the university. Yes. So in another one, another disobedience to reckless regard to due process is the issue of appointment of an acting registrar. There are 14 deputy registrars in the university. Some of them became deputy registrar 2010, 2011, 14, 15, 16. The VC came in and brought us an England who became deputy vice chancellor deputy registrar 2017, and that is raised objection. And the following day, the appointment was declared null and void. And the acting vice chancellor said we have no right, that the council has no right to appoint. That is not for our information. The following day, they did a U-turn. And I asked them to put it on the document that Professor Akifele is opposed to appointment of an acting registrar who didn't follow credit, they didn't follow merit and seniority. And the petition was sent to us by a stakeholder who is a senior deputy registrar, complaining bitterly why should they start that. I asked them, your deputy registrar, are they appointed or they are given a position? They said, yes, they are appointed. Do they pass through the selection? He said, yes. Do they have any query? He said, no. Then why do you leave the most senior and you are taking the most junior? Is that not a violation of the rule of law? And the university is guided by the Mr. Lone Act of Section 3.3.
Right.
In the process of appointment, our long list was submitted, and we warned them that we have finished our job. The job now is for the joint Senate and Council board. They are not coming, they are board.
All right.
To do. And that's why they had crisis when they went there.
All right.
When they went there, they had crisis. Two of them had to walk out on the meeting, and they're talking. It says he's a journalist. I don't know whether he's a journalist of conscience.
Prof.
If he's a journalist of conscience, how can you destroy the? How do you want to padlock the air? The Senate people went there to cover the event. They were not violent, and you went out to embarrass them. His wife says his reporter, the commando people came in to the Senate and discharged and assaulted senior professors, seizing their telephone and that thing. I think that is, in my judgment, a blatant disregard to.
All right, just before we go to Professor Kari, I'd like to ask: Would you love to serve on the governing council? Because he's saying that the reason why you're doing media rounds like this is the selection council, right? So would you love to serve on the selection council?
No, the selection board had been selected by the chairman.
So you have no interest whatsoever?
I have no interest.
Okay.
I have no interest, and the man is just saying things that lack surface credibility.
All right.
I think it's one of the people, in my judgment, that is trying to make the appointment of the vice chancellorship as a do or die
affair,
rather than a do and talk. We cannot discontinent and abuse the 4 pillars of this present administration. A letter was sent to us, according to them, by the Minister of Education, which is a manufactured letter, signed by one director, Mrs. Gigi Iluasu, that we should complete the assignment of appointment of registrar and that of VC within 7 days. It is not possible. It's not achievable. I know the minister, a gentleman, a highly professional person, a highly dedicated and meticulous, cannot want to interfere with the work of the council. It's a fallacy. I think they need to investigate this, Madam G.R. Ileusa, who signed this document. And the chairman told us it was
many
private.
more things that you have raised now, Professor. Thankfully, Professor Kari is here. Professor Kari, I would like you to respond to that. Don't forget to also speak to what Prof said about violation of merit in the appointment of Bursa and the appointment of deputy registrar.
Acting registrar.
Acting registrar. And now this letter that he's talked about, signed by one Madam Iliasu.
Iliasu, yes.
Professor Kari, over to you now.
Until it's a personal letter. Abba.
Professor Kari.
Well, if it's not coming, can I also ask that during the process of complaining, I asked, was this letter signed by the minister? Nobody gave me information. Was it signed by the permanent secretary? Nobody signed until when we got it in. And somebody said, wallahi. Wallahi.
All right. Professor Kari is back now. Professor Kari.
Let me respond.
Go ahead, Professor Kari.
Please. Let me respond. Yes. Perhaps my senior colleague has become very, very emotional. He has said so many things that are not correct. First, in the simple advert that he was talking about, there was nothing like even a graduate assistant could apply. The very first requirement is that an applicant must be a professor. Must be a professor. I have the document here, dated August 15, 2024. So that's the first one. The second one, the appointment of the acting registrar. The first person the acting VC recommended was the most senior deputy registrar, Dr. Idris Othman Jibrin. But it was rejected because he has also applied for the job. And I can put it to the professor. I want him to contradict me that there is nothing in the University of Abuja Act that says it is necessarily the most senior deputy registrar who can act. And that was what the point the acting VC raised in council. And council now asks her to submit another name. And she submitted the name of Mrs. Islamiyat Abdrahim, who became deputy registrar again in 2018, 6 years ago, not a baby deputy registrar, as the professor has also said, which is also a fallacy, not true. And another error he made, whether deliberately or without knowing it, is that the letter from the Federal Ministry of Education was written exactly 2 weeks ago from today. So the ministry did not give the council 7 days to produce a vice chancellor. It gave them 15 days. And it may interest you to know that the Abuja Tafawa Balewa University, Bauchi, produced.
Prof, hold on. Let Professor Kari land. Professor Kari, please land on your thoughts.
Yes. And I tell you that I serve on the governing council. I also serve on the selection board. When search has been concluded, it shouldn't take more than 7-10 days for appointment to be made, because all that remains now is to scrutinize the papers and come up with a short list of 3 and submit to council. So it is no big deal.
All right.
And on the letter itself, the letter was signed by the Director University Education, Hajia Rekia Iliasu.
All right.
And the letter specifically stated that she was directed by the minister. So it is very, very interesting that an appointee of the federal government.
All right. Professor Kari. Professor Kari, I imagine that this conversation has by no means ended here. It will definitely continue between the governing board and the university authorities beyond this space.
Due process.
All right, Prof, we're totally out of time. We've been talking with...
I was talking to you. They have sent 14 names to the DSS to clear. It's a process. You cannot jump any stage of this process.
All right,
it's not a photocopy.
All right. We've been talking with Professor Ralph Akinfele, former chairman, head of UNILAG Mass Communication Department. He's also representing Africa on the Governing Council of the World Journalism Education Congress and currently on the governing board of the University of Abuja. We've also had Professor Abubakar Umar Kari, Dean Student Affairs, University of Abuja, who joined us virtually. Apparently, this is by no means the end of this conversation. I'll be keeping tabs on this matter to see how it turns out and who will eventually get this highly contentious job. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your time on the program. When we return, we'll bring you something just as interesting. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
Well, no matter who you are, you certainly have one project or the order, or other in this case, that you're working on. And we don't want any sort of disorder in that project you're managing. So we're speaking with a project manager, an expert in project management, to sort of walk through that very important, I call it expertise on the show this morning as we get ready for 2025. We're imagining that there are lots of projects that will be happening, either personal projects, live projects, and the rest. We're joined by Bukola Okiji, who's head of projects, PMO, that's National Health Service, project director, AFWL, and digital community project, founder and lead tutor at ABPMX. Not to worry, you get to understand all of those acronyms as the conversation unfolds. You're welcome to the Morning Brief.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for having me.
Good morning, and compliments of a season to you. I jokingly said when we started the show that everyone has one project or the other, and that's not to trivialize, project management. But speak to us about just how important this is for everyone. Fine, not everyone can be project managers in that sense, but you can always borrow some of the theories, insights from project management. Am I correct?
Yes, you're right. Well, I actually believe everyone is a project manager. I think not many people realize that they're actually project managers. I think when you wake up in the morning or in any activities you're doing, I think you plan ahead. Yes, it doesn't necessarily give you that title, project managing, but one way or another, we have all been project managing our lives, whether we believe it or not. However, there are some people that are building up expertise in this area to support businesses and organizations with a number of their projects. The problem we have in this society is that we tend to call everything a project when everything is also not a project as well. And we have activities that we do on a regular basis that we also recognize as business as usual. But just to go back to your opening sentence, yes, project management is becoming more and more popular. It has always been there. It's just that in the past 5 to 7 years or so, more and more people are recognizing the importance of project management in their business, in their organization, and also in their everyday lives as well.
So, you know, you're quite right when you say that it's becoming a more attractive field in the last 5 years. Many more are taking an interest in it. Speaking of which, can I become a project manager, just in case somebody is asking, without a certification?
It's almost like saying, can you become a specialist in an area without actually getting certified or getting knowledge or training? In as much as you can learn on hand, like you can be an accidental project manager like I was. I came into this space unknowingly, and I have absolutely, it's been thriving for me. It's been a great space for me, probably because of all my previous knowledge, expertise, and so forth. So speaking from your perspective, most definitely you can become a project manager. What you can do is not to discredit any of your past experiences. Understand the skills that you have to be able to transition into this space. So the best thing for you to do is probably to do a skills analysis test or an assessment, and recognizing what it is that you have right now, what it is that you need to transition into this field. And project management, it can be very simple if you understand the steps it will take for you to actually do it. It only becomes complicated when you want to jump hurdles, like many other professions. So just to answer your question, yes, you can become a project manager, provided that you get the right skills and you get the right mentorship, or you get the right support to be able to transition really smoothly. If you don't get the right mentorship or the right skill set or the right knowledge, then it might become a hurdle. So the best way to actually start is to start from where you are right now. So let's say you're in communications or you're a customer service expert. Just look at your communication skills, look at your people skills, look at your soft skills. What I would say in the project management space, soft skills were really honed in from 2023 to about right now. You know, focusing on soft skills was very, very important, which is building up your emotional intelligence, building up your communication, building up your planning skills, building up your people skills as well. But I would say the trend now for 2024, 2025, which I'm happy to kind of talk a little bit more about later on, is about the recognition of the digital age, utilization of digital tools to make your life a lot better. But to go back to your question, yes, anyone can become a project manager with the right set of skill set, with the right set of support, and the right set of mentoring.
Well, there you have it. You compact, definitely. I'm trying to think of, applications of project management in national lives, for example. Should we maybe have some sort of policy that if you're going to be a politician, hold a key position, you must have some sort of project management understanding, because you're going to be managing our resources, right, ensuring that you deliver on the promises. So if you want to be president, have a certification. I don't know if I'm stretching it, but I'm just thinking this is a skill that people in those positions need to have. Even fathers, mothers, if you're in charge of a family, you should have some sort of project management understanding or certification, maybe soft. But is that something you will push in the coming maybe months or years?
I think certification is great, but knowledge is key. Knowledge, understanding of how to run a project from start to finish. If you grasp the basic element of project management, you will be successful, which basically means from planning, from initiating to planning to implementing, and most importantly to closing. We have a number of organizations, even different countries and continents, businesses, thinking that they're running projects, whereas they're not actually running projects. I think there has to be a sense of analysis at the beginning. What is it that we're trying to achieve? And if it is that we're trying to achieve this, what does good look like? You have to plan with a means to an end, meaning that you want to achieve a particular goal. It's really, really simple. You want to achieve, let's say you want to build a construction site. You know what good looks like. The construction site, let's say, it's not even a contract, a building. The end goal is to have that building fully rent and safe. right? As a project manager, you have to make sure what you are doing is going to be fit for purpose, right? And as a project manager, you have to focus on what is it that I need to complete this project, the resources that can be required for me to complete this project, what are the tools that I'm going to require to do this project. A majority of the times, it's also not to negate the people element of it, because a lot of the times we're very process-driven. Very process-driven in the sense that we have to achieve this and it's got to be done. Whereas in order for the process to work, you need the people to do the work. So going back to your question, do I feel like everyone needs to be certified to be a project manager? I think certification just gives you that sense of authority. It gives you that element of you actually know what it is that you're doing. There are a number of certifications that you can do depending on what, where your region is, what part of the world you are in. In the USA, they concentrate very heavily on PMP, which is the project management professional certification. In Europe, it's very Prince 2 heavy, which is very much around, processes, but now there is people element of it as well. And in other areas, they're very much focused on Agile, which is the iteration of planning a project. So in any areas that we have, be it construction, be it healthcare, even in entertainment and political organizations as well, I feel like it is very fundamental that people understand the basic elements of project management, be it planning. I see in organizations there are job titles that are given to people with the terminology project on it, and in effect, majority of them might not really understand the concept of planning a project from start to finish. A number of it might just be about strategy. We have the strategy to do this, but do we actually know how to do that project to completion? And sometimes, a lot of the times, project management get confused with other types of role, which is to do with organizational behavior, to do with change management. It's all parts and elements of it. However, project management is as simple as it is planning a project from start to finishing, utilizing the skill set that you're going to use to do that. Yes.
So, absolutely. And I think this has been very interesting, enlightening as well. I'm still sticking to that point that I think some of our managers, the managers of economy, polity, need to get some sort of training, right, in project management. And I imagine that is on already. But we have to thank you so much. I'm tempted to ask, can every professional seek this? I'm talking doctors, Bukola said journalists, whether you're whatever. Can any and every professional get a certification?
Yeah, it's very simple. There are different certifications that you can take, just like I mentioned.
I'm sorry, I've opened up a new vista, but we have to run right now. That was by popular demand. But clearly, this is an ongoing conversation, something that we'll check up on in the coming months. But Bukola Okiji, Head of Projects, NHS, thank you so much for your time. And here's to implementing and getting successful and excellent projects in the coming year.
Thanks for having me.
And so, Kade, we have successfully managed Project Morning Brief from start to finish, from Monday till Friday. And we thank you so much for being a part of this Project Morning Brief. We'll be back again on Monday. That will be the last Monday of the year 2024 with your perfect morning starter. I am Bukola Koka.
And I'm Kade Okikilu. Sunrise Daily is next. Goodbye.